Hello, everybody. Welcome to China Talk episode. It's still not episode 56. Remember, it is 59 now. That overlay is lying to you. That's how we differentiate the real fans from the fake ones. So this China Talk is going to be a little bit different in the sense that it's Worlds times, man. It's Worlds. We get to talk about it. The group stages were set yesterday. No, 2 days ago. Memory is beautiful. So we know what the groups are now, just to freshen everyone up. Group A has CLG, Flash Wolves, Coup, and Pain Gaming. Group B has Fnatic, Invictus Gaming, AHQ, and Cloud9. Group C has SKT, H2K, EDG, and Bangkok Titans. And Group D has LGD, Team Solo, Sadness, and Origin. So, alright, let's get into it. We're just only going to touch on Group A a little bit just to get everyone's thoughts on who's getting out of the groups. Group A doesn't have a Chinese team, so we really won't spend that much time talking about it, unless of course you consider Flash Wolves Chinese. All right, we're not getting this. All right. So Group A, just a little bit. Let's actually start with Jackson on this one because, of course, this is the group of faith. All right, Jackson. Who do you think is getting out?
CLG and Crew Tigers.
There we go.
To be fair, though, I haven't watched any Flash Wolves games.
Yeah.
Where I have watched Pain games, and I'm assuming Huhi won't just completely get ass blasted in the jungle and be absolutely terrible. So
yeah,
it'd be kind of weird if they didn't get out.
Do you think it's gonna be in that order, CLG or Coup, or do you think Coup? Yeah,
I don't know. It's actually hard to say because a lot of people I'm not very educated on things that aren't SKT in Korea, but a lot of people seem to say that Coup is very meta dependent. So I mean, I guess it depends because this is the hugest patch change from any major tournament versus the regular various leagues going on. So I mean, if they can adapt to that, then they should take first, but if they can't, then there's a realistic shot of CLG taking first. Also, I'm trying to think here. Oh yeah, Doublelift was kind of shit talking both KT and Coup on stream, but he's Doublelift, so
yeah.
Who knows the validity of that statement or if they even have scrim results against them. So
all right, now let's go to good old Kelsey. What's your take on this group?
I think it'll be Coup and CLG, with Coup in first. Just because when we do discuss the meta changes, chances are it'll still be top favored, and Smeb is one of the best top laners of the tournament. Also, in terms of the power that supports have had in the current meta, Gorilla is really, really good. So the big question for me is CLG versus Flash Wolves, because even though CLG is theoretically better than Flash Wolves in terms of a player-by-player basis and everything else, I think that Karsa is really good as a jungler, and the fact that CLG will be hurting in terms of jungle synergy might be a way of something that the Flash Wolves can exploit, because I would say the big strong points of their team are their jungle and support. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Of course, if they are playing Never Lose, I thought for a while they had Kramer. This shows how much attention I pay to what's going on. But if they do play Never Lose, who's pretty bad, that's something that can easily be abused no matter how good Sword Art is. So, Never Lose, everyone keeps talking about Stake, but if it is Never Lose playing, that's he's definitely the worst player on that team. Even with all the shit that Stake gets. So anyway, yeah.
All right. Emily, curious to this one.
So I had to actually review this group, and by the time I think the show's released, I will have already written an article on it. But that's what I've been doing for the past couple of days, is rewatching VODs of these four teams and seeing how they matched up. I think that I actually picked, and it honestly depends if they can get Smithy's visa issues filled out, as opposed to having Huhi. I think Huhi will be fine in terms of, just base mechanics, being able to play the jungle, etc. Jungle's a really important position for me, and I think that Karsa will actually, as Kelsey alluded to, have a huge advantage there. As far as I do know, though, they are playing Never Lose because Kramer is back in Korea right now. So I actually talked to a couple of people who follow LMS a lot more closely than I do before writing, and they didn't really know why, but he could still be listed as a sub, I think. I'm not actually honestly 100% sure about that. But going in, you want to make the assumption that they're actually going to be playing NL and Sword Art. A lot of people are talking about Pain Gaming, and obviously that's a team that I'm very, very familiar with. I think that they have a chance to play spoiler in this group. I also think that if a wildcard team ever had a chance of making it out of groups, this is definitely like I feel like all 4 of these teams were looking at this group and they're like, oh yeah, I got this. Like, this is such an easy group. All right, we can do this. I think Ku looked very strong in the gauntlet, and additionally, the thing about Ku and in subsequent interviews, like there's a really great Gorilla interview out right now that Grace translated, one of the other freelancers who works at Outlaw Esports, and she translated this interview with Gorilla, and basically, like every single interview that the Ku Tigers have done prior to following the final, the summer final, and then obviously IM, they've all come out and said, we're still really embarrassed. Like, that still carries with us. And even though they do have certain troubles and different metas, I think this is going to be a team that isn't going to leave any sort of preparation out. Like, I feel like they'll even prepare for Pain Gaming, even though I honestly don't think Pain has a chance of taking even one game off the Ku Tigers.
Okay.
I think that I actually see I know that's here's like all the Pain Gaming fans, all like 2 of them that watch China Talk are gonna roast me for that. But I actually picked Ku and Flash Wolves, as weird as that sounds, because I'm also not even high. I know, I'm not even high on the
angers the Pain Gaming fans, angers the CLG fans.
CLG fans. I'm just making everyone super angry.
All right.
I do think though, if X Smithy plays, then CLG will take second. And it's really close between those 2 teams. It's going to depend on the top and bot lane being a mismatch, and then obviously the jungle being a huge mismatch. The reason why I said that is actually because I think that CLG is a team, how they've done well this year, going back and watching all of their, going through all their games, is that they finally move together as a team. They finally communicate as a team. And I think disrupting that communication, as we've seen from even top level teams, it affects the overall team synergy. And I think that's a perfect opportunity for the Flash Wolves with a jungler like Karsa to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning behind it. I do actually have reasoning, did watch the games. I'm not just trying to hate on CLG. I'm not even that high on the LMS, which is kind of sad.
So then brings my opinion, which is not really high on LMS. It's just literally ignorant of LMS. I have not watched a single game, folks. So
yeah, same. I can't say that Yowie won't advance.
In my opinion, there's a huge discrepancy between
I don't even know that
the
Yowie
top
isn't
teams
even in the
and
name anymore.
the bottom. Yeah, they don't have Yowie as a sponsor.
They're just the Flash Wolves today, baby.
Alright. Well, if we're gonna be that picky, then we're gonna say Chaogu Reapers every time we talk about Chaogu, okay? I mean, it's only fair if we're gonna be specific here.
They have Reapers in their name.
Alright, so I'm just gonna say CLG and Ku Tigers, because even though from what I've heard, Flash Wolves is a great team, I still gonna go with my bias here and go with CLG simply because I've seen them play as a team. And even if they go with Huhi as a jungler, I think they'll be fine. I don't know. It's
well, I mean, and also not to mention that Zion's actually working with Huhi directly to get him caught up on jungle and how they use him stylistically.
Yeah.
Or did I say Zion?
I think Zion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Zix, okay.
Sorry.
Zion, Zix.
Zix and Xmithy.
Zion knows all about the jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
You might even see a positive output just simply because of a lot of the hate on Xmithy as a jungler, which is honestly kind of it's justified hate because his team fighting is kind of off a lot of times.
I think he did good in the playoffs.
In the playoffs,
Yeah,
he's done
he
really
did
well.
well in the finals.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how the difference between him and Huhi and how they play as a team. So we'll see how that works out. For Group B, though, this is where we all come in. Fnatic, IG, AHQ, Cloud9. It's time. All right, let's go with Emily. You ended up for the last one. Let you start out this time.
So I think IG is gonna take the top spot. Here's where I actually think that, in spite of the fact that AHQ, I honestly believe them to be a poor matchup for Fnatic based on playstyle, just because I think their early game is something that Fnatic has no answer for.
Yeah.
But I actually think Fnatic will end up taking the second spot in this group. And again, it's really close between those two. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see AHQ take that second spot. I do think, and like, I hate picking IG. Like, even when they look so strong, I hate picking them because they're so inconsistent. And this is why I didn't even pick them to make it out of the regional qualifier, because their top is so high and their like worst is so bad.
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna have like a
just
rant
so
about that
painful
one
to
later on.
watch.
Yeah.
But I think that at the very least in groups, I think they'll be fine. Like, especially considering that it's going to be on the new patch, as you mentioned. I think IG, their drafts are typically super on point, and they adapt really well to new patches. I think Zatai has been playing really, really well as of late, so I think that will definitely take them through this group fairly easily, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Kelsey, it's your time. It's your time to shine, Kelsey.
Alright. Yeah, I think Invictus Gaming is going to take first. As was stated, they're good at adapting to new patches, so the fact that groups A and B are in week 1 actually helps IG a lot, because that doesn't give teams that much time to play competitive games on the patch and get better.
Yeah.
So IG will have the initial boost of the patch change the way they often do. And I also just think that it comes down to, for IG, it always hinges on whether or not Zatai and Rookie can get ahead. And if they do, then usually it's a win for them. And just I'm not necessarily saying that Zatai is better than Huni, but like the fact that Kakao is their jungler and is going to maximize the efficiency of those ganks. And when you think of Rainover, as kind of wandering around farming, occasionally counter ganking. He's not necessarily nearly as proactive as Kakao is, I think.
Yeah.
I think that will be something that can be seen. And Kakao is definitely like the more fearless jungler. If the team has direction and knows who they want to get ahead, he'll gank first more often than not. The question always is just like, will IG have one of those games where they decide to do nothing? So that's the issue for me. Bottom lane, of course, I think Reckless and Yellow Star will probably do better, but I don't think the team really needs Kid and Kitties to get ahead that much, and Kid and Kitties have had like really bad games, but not in a long time. Not since Kid came back from his break where he was recovering his mentality have IG really had like a game where their bottom lanes just get exploded by the enemy bottom lane, and they've faced some pretty tricky bottom lanes in this time too, so I think they're pretty okay for that. In terms of the other two teams, wow. AHQ, I think, is a little bit overrated, unfortunately. I don't think they're going to do a whole lot.
Why would you say, like, what would make AHQ overrated? What about that team?
Necessarily. I think that they've been extremely meta-reliant, and right now, like, Westor can get a buff, especially if people are playing Zed again, things like that, but I don't think they'll get ahead, especially if they're just so. For me, when I look at AHQ, they just seem like very okay.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing really that super stands out about them to me, and I don't think in this group that will be enough to get you through.
Okay.
That's how I'd put it. And I think Cloud9 is just going to be a disaster. So.
Good point. All right. And going back to Emily, actually, about when we're talking about Invictus Gaming's highs and lows, what do you think is causing their highs and lows? Do you think it's like, I think one of the suggestions that was made was a meta, like it was a meta-based issue between the team. Like what do you think causes this issue with IG?
I think previously, I know like watching them during the season, some of it's meta, some of it I think is just a lot of like I hate to bring this up as a reason, but they had this really weird mentality around EDG and how like in the beginning of this season, so like last season when they were figuring stuff out and they were super inconsistent, you could kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. They were trying to figure out their hybrid roster. Like obviously Cacao and Rookie had good communication. The rest of the team, they had Pokemon at first, and then they swapped to Zatai, and Zatai, for as well as he's playing now, really didn't start performing until the end of last season. So, the first split.
Yeah.
So second split comes and they see EDG go to MSI and they're like, yeah, like we're going to do it. And Zatai is super motivated and they lose. And they lose a really close game, but in their first set, but they lose. And the second game is not as good and not as close.
Yeah.
And then they have all these weird internal issues with like one of their managers and their coach, and Maffa doesn't want to draft for them because the team doesn't respect him.
Mm-hmm.
And Kid has to take a sabbatical because his mentality isn't in a good place. And I actually think that was a good idea for him, to be honest, because he's come back and he's looked a lot more like, I don't think he's ever going to light the world on fire, but he's looked fine. Like he's looked stable. He's been fine. I still think Kitties is the far weaker of the two. And I think they're a team that relies a lot on their mentality as a group. And especially with a hybrid roster, I think that can be hard to like swing in one way or another, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I attribute a lot of their reasons for like doing poorly two things. One, I think we saw a lot of other rosters kind of figure it out, and so they just leapt ahead of Invictus in general. But then two, I think that's a huge part of it. Like the team has these weird like tilting issues basically where they sometimes are not in a good place, or they for whatever reason don't think they can do it, or the community pressure gets to them. And I definitely don't think, like, the reason why I'm predicting them first, and I actually, like, can see a very real possibility of them not even dropping a game in this group. And the reason why I say that is because I think right now they are in a really good place, and they're going to be on a new patch, and that's, like, it's basically going to be the perfect environment for this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they have those kind of horrible games, it's going to be later on in the bracket stage for sure. And it'll be because of something like that, because something gets them, or they can't figure it out, or there's weird internal issues for whatever reason.
Okay. And do we all agree with that? Is that a thing that IG is that, and can anyone really expand on that? The idea that IG really has an issue with like mental cobwebs, or at least had one. And do you think that they've conquered it? And I guess that's maybe too much of a question. Maybe that we should hold off until group stages to find out. But is that the consensus here?
Well, I also just don't think that it's everyone in IG that has those issues. It's just a select few. Mm-hmm. And Kid was one of the prime examples, and when Kid doesn't have those, he's doing really well. Like, even right now, I think the Kid versus Reckless matchup is pretty close, and I think Kid's better. Like, yeah. I've always been a Kid apologist, though, so... but I mean, I do think that Yellow Star is better than Kitties, so I guess that's one thing. But I do see IG topping the group, because even in their matchup against Fnatic, and I have to plead ignorance on AHQ again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But... even in their match against Fnatic, I don't really see them losing out in any position that's not. And this is like kind of a stretch. Like people are gonna hate me for saying that about top lane, right? But this is a really good meta for Ztai, and he's incredibly motivated, which are two things that are really really good that are going for him.
Yeah.
And I do think that Kakao would be able to dismantle Reignover in the jungle. And on top of that, like, you know, you can't really rely on Fabivin to get his solo kills or whatever, because I highly doubt that's going to happen on Rookie. But then again, it did happen on Faker, blah, 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 whatever. But Rookie's, like, looking insanely good coming out of the playoffs. So, and yeah, on top of that, like was mentioned before, you have the really solid drafting. So overall, like, IG, like, if you just compare them, like, factor by factor and lane by lane to the other teams, I do actually see them coming out of the group, like, on top pretty easily, but I guess that also depends on how well Fnatic prepares.
Yeah.
I just individually though, I do think IG's better. Although, yeah, again, like people are gonna hate me, the people that only think Kakao and Rookie are the good players and everybody else is potatoes. But like, I'm telling you, man, it's not the case.
Hey, for me, I think everyone on this on this panel can agree. Okay, Kelsey, you go for it first.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say that I think that the thing again with Fnatic is part of their weaknesses are in the early game and just not knowing to react to some of those situations or wanting to play too conservatively. And when Invictus Gaming plays their game, it's like Ztai is just saying, oh, you don't expect us to dive your tower level 3, or oh, all this other stuff. And that's like where IG will take this like stupid advantage just because Ztai just isn't afraid of things that he should be afraid of. So
Yeah.
this is kind of where, but of course, Huni is really good at pushing out those dives, so you can kind of consider that aspect as well.
Yeah. And so I think that's just earlier to the point I was making, is that I think that everyone can agree to the point that Ztai right now is the biggest strength to IG. People are going to be saying, oh, Kakao, Kid. Well, mostly not Kid, actually. Kakao and...
Nobody's going to be saying Kid.
No one's
Yeah, no one's
gonna
gonna be
say
saying
it except
No one's saying Kid.
Kakao
Even
and
the
Rookie.
dirty Kid apologist is not going to say Kid.
But it's going to be Kakao and Rookie, Kakao and Rookie, Kakao and Rookie. But like people will find out very quickly that it's just going to be a Ztai show.
Well, I actually think in this group specifically, it is kind of Kakao and Rookie, though.
It could be, yeah.
I think over the course of the tournament, you could say Ztai, yeah, but I think that jungle and mid are actually really important for this group specifically, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like if you look at all the teams and their
I think
impact,
you could
where their
say-
impact's coming from.
I think Rookie is the strongest player. Kakao is the biggest X factor. Like, is he just going to farm this game, or what's he going to do? And
Yeah.
Ztai is like the biggest unexpected punch in the face, I guess is how I would
Yeah, pretty
characterize
much.
that.
It's always the unexpected punches that knock you out. There we go. So for me, I would say IG Fnatic, and for me the one thing I'm going to say about this group, and the rant I was going to make about IG, is the fact that I think a lot of people kind of said that IG's weaknesses or instability comes from the patch changes, and even though I think that's like a small part of it, it's really, really, like Emily nails it on the head, which is just their mentality as a team, the environment that they're in, and I think that if they lose a game, even though it doesn't matter how fucking close it was, like it's a really solid game and it gets really close, but if they lose that game, like their mentality crumbles, and that's like the biggest fear that I have for this team. So I would say that if they go up against Fnatic as the first game of this group, and if they lose, it's something unlucky, like that I wouldn't even be surprised if AHQ ends up taking second spot, because you don't know how Invictus Gaming can really pick it up after like a first loss. So if they can pick it up, that's a big thing. There's always a big question about Invictus Gaming. Can they pick it up after a first loss, regardless of how good the first game was? But I think if they get any other team, if they get Cloud9, if they get AHQ first, and like GG, they take second. But if it comes back to how their mentality comes after, let's say, if they take on Fnatic for the first set. So that's my idea on that one. So Group C time, baby. SKT, H2K, EDG, Bangkok. Alright, this is going to be the easiest group of our lives, except for maybe, I feel like the biggest discussion will be between SKT and EDG, who takes first seed. So, let's go to Drexen first, actually. What do you think about SKT versus EDG? Because I think, are we all in agreement that these two teams are going to be the ones coming out of the groups?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
Dude, I think Bangkok Titans is going to win the tournament. So.
Got to it, Chelsea.
This is actually kind of hard because I actually think a lot of this depends on how well Koro plays if he's starting.
Mhm.
Because he's been really wildly inconsistent, and SKT gives a lot of their gold to Marin. So that might make the like. Because here's the thing. Like, okay, you could put in Amazing J because carrying is like the carry top laners are back in or whatever. But I think you get the same issue with EDG in the SKT matchup no matter what. Just because if you are starting Amazing J and you know, he has the same issues where he can't really be as self-sufficient and does rely on jungler to help. And then you also have, Koro. Wow,
Yeah,
that was a
there we
weird
go.
brain fart.
There you go.
And you
I
also
mean,
have
I'm the one who
Koro
said Kuro a long time ago.
who to meet the specifications where EDG plays best will also have to be self-sufficient against one of the most invested in top laners gold-wise. So either way, it's actually kind of... I'm actually almost leaning towards SKT because I think that Clearlove's going to get pulled away from helping Deft as much as he'd like, and he's going to have to help whatever top laner they bring and mid laner for this matchup. Maybe not mid so much as top, and I think that that's going to kind of throw off EDG. Like, EDG did look really, really strong in regionals, but at the same time, I actually think that's kind of a big factor because EDG looks a lot more comfortable when they can just use Pawn as a distracting factor. Koro can be self-sufficient until he's required to teleport and team fight, and Deft is the primary focus, and then Clearlove can get Deft ahead. So, yeah, I'm going to put SKT slightly above EDG here, I think.
Okay. All right. Emily, SKT or EDG?
I actually think SKT is going to take the first spot, only because I think we've seen out of EDG the few times that they have not performed up to like the level expected of them. It's a lot of the times it is on a new patch or in a new environment, like you saw during the playoffs. But once they kind of figured stuff out more, even though the patch was on 5.16 for the regionals, I thought they'd figured out stuff enough by then from at least like the Fiora Gangplank and then Clearlove on Skarner. I thought was really interesting. But I think in terms of when EDG will like shine, it'll be later on down the road again. So in this group specifically, I think SKT will take the top spot. And then obviously I feel very badly for H2K and Bangkok Titans because they're gonna have a rough time of it in this group. And I know everyone's looking forward to the Ryu Faker rematch, so I'm kind of hoping that Ryu just locks in Zed anyway, and it's just like, screw you, like, I'm gonna do this, it's not like we're gonna win this game anyway, so might as well 1v1 Faker,
Just
right?
the redemption time,
Yeah, I love Ryu, so I don't know, part of me hopes that happens. But yeah, and the only way I see EDG taking first spot in this group, because I don't think it's impossible, is if when they meet up with SKT, Clearlove just absolutely destroys Bengi. And like, my heart of hearts, I would love to see that too, because I'm not, as people might know, I'm not the biggest Bengi fan. And I think that's actually entirely possible. So if EDG takes the top spot, I think that's how it will happen. I do like Mike's point about Koro though, because I think across, so like from MSI, and I don't think this is in any way like close to what, like, these are two different teams now. One of the things that happened back then that's kind of really interesting to track both of them is that they went in separate directions. So SKT spent the majority of spring flopping back and forth between EasyHoon and Faker, trying to figure out
Tom and Bengi,
and Tom and Bengi to some extent, but more like if you look back at their games from mid lane, like it's almost every other game, the entire season, and you see them setting up for this kind of like, okay, if we want this style team, we're going to put EasyHoon in, and if we want this style team, we're going to put Faker in, specifically around their team fighting, which isn't necessarily, in my opinion, SKT's strength. And that's pretty much the thing that EasyHoon brings with like his zoning mids and his very safe play style. That Bengi, it allows them to team fight a little bit better, even though again, team fighting is still really not going to be like the thing you're looking for, like huge 5v5 fights out of this team. But they go into MSI, EDG beats them, and they beat them very convincingly through drafting. And I think at that point, SKT was like, all right, here's this team. And even though they're a hybrid roster, they stuck together. They're 5 people. We're going to do that. And you've seen a lot fewer roster shifts from SKT throughout summer. And they've been incredibly dominant in Korea. And EDG took the opposite route, right? They swapped between Amazing J and Koro, and they swapped between Pawn and Baimi. And it's kind of how much you believe Sanshao and mystery illnesses and all that stuff, and how much they're actually just trying to shake up their roster, give experience, or whatever. Whatever it is, I think when that team was reunited, and now when they do play as 5, they're definitely not as strong of a unit. So I think it might take some time in the group stages to get there, which is another reason why I think they're going to take second here, but with the capacity to overtake SKT later on down the road.
Yeah, I also do think there's a possibility, like, I don't like them doing this, but they do have experience doing this, is pouring a lot of Clearlove's investment into Pawn to try to punish Faker being a little bit over-aggressive in the mid lane and then trying to go from there. Obviously not the ideal way of doing it, but it is something they could do in terms of how group stage is done, just because it's not like a series, so to speak. So that could kind of work as a cheese, I suppose.
Okay.
I don't know.
Who did I not ask yet, actually, about SKT versus EDG?
Kelsey.
Okay, Kelsey. I didn't forget about you.
Literally just did. I think that's what actually just happened.
Okay, so I agree that it's going to be SKT, and I think for similar reasons. My thing is that I actually think one of the big factors is still going to be Wolf. And if SKT loses, it's going to be in part because of Wolf's inconsistencies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we saw at MSI
MSI.
that was a huge factor. Between Mako and Wolf was that Mako was really consistently good all series, and then Wolf had some issues where he was made himself into a target in situations where he probably shouldn't have been as obvious a target.
Yeah.
I will say that focusing mid I think is going to be the red herring, and since EDG isn't naturally suited for ganks top, Koro gets almost no love at all, and Marin I think is, I'm not going to say tilted, but if Marin is ahead he'll do well, but if he's not ahead he does not have a good time at all. So I think we've seen a lot more top lane ganks and stuff in SKT games, and that's been part of their adjustment in summer. So I think that in the past at MSI, it was okay to just 1v1 destroy Marin and set him behind, but I don't think that will happen in this case. I think we're going to see a lot more top lane ganks towards Marin, which will not be good if EDG doesn't adapt, and I don't think they'll adapt right away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree that EDG is going to be more of a ramp-up team in this instance. One other factor I will say is that some of the top mid swapping, I think, has actually made Clearlove a stronger jungler individually, and there were instances where he just became the hard carry that the team needed, or he became much more fundamental as a backbone, and there are good aspects to that and bad aspects to that, so I would like to see how that plays out.
Yeah. I do think that the patch changes have done a lot for EDG in a sense that I think that it's really helped out their pick bans, because generally when teams have gone against them, I thought that you ban out their main strength of a strategy and you do well. For instance, if you give Pawn Twisted Fate, that's oh well, I feel like Pawn gets so much attention that he can really look outside of the laning phase for a lot of it. He doesn't have to think about how well he how the specific matchups in the laning phase works out, so he gets a lot of freedom in picking poor matchups like Kassadin, or even if you go farther back you get kind of random picks that he it feels like troll matches in a sense. So I do think that if the bans go as they have gone in 5.16, I think it was, in China, or is it 5. I don't even remember anymore. I'm just gonna.
No, yeah, it was 5.16.
Okay,
It was 5.6.
Yeah. If the bans remain the same, then I think that if they do end up getting a really strong pick for Pawn, let's say even LeBlanc, like give him LeBlanc, give him Twisted Fate, and I think that actually ends up going in favor of EDG. So in that sense, I think EDG will. I think they can definitely take the first game of this series. I'm not sure about the second one, but I'm just gonna say EDG takes the series. I think it's gonna be EDG SKT. It's gonna be really close games. But I think a lot of the favor is just going to go on EDG just because of the pawn matchup. I think in every other lane, I think I would favor EDG's bot lane. I'd favor SKT's top lane and probably jungle just because of the synergy. Even though like I love Clear Love, but I think and I think Clear Love's the better jungler. But I think his attention's going to be they're going to have like both teams are going to have different like focuses, and I think it's going to be a lot more efficient with the EDG. That's just a random prediction though. I have no idea what's going on in 5.18, so all that can go up in the air.
The fun thing is that none of us do,
We haven't
so
mentioned-
all of
Yeah.
this can be wrong.
Yay.
We haven't mentioned Mordekaiser.
Oh,
so,
Oh
yeah.
god.
Let's
Who
not.
who is the best Mordekaiser player?
I'm like really tempted in thinking that Mordekaiser is a horrible champion, and then you forget he has a pet dragon, and then you're like, okay, well, I don't know anymore. You kind of just lose a free tower if you ever get to that. So, that champion, please somebody do something about it. Okay, Group D
I'm
time.
hoping they do.
Damn.
Group D for death. I love this one. It's very fitting. So LGD, KT Rolster. That one's for you, Emily. KT Rolster in the same group as LGD, and then of course Origin and Team Solo mid. Damn. Let's go with Drexen. I don't know. No, screw that. Kelsey, I haven't actually
Wow,
started.
fucking robbed.
I haven't started with Kelsey, I'm pretty sure, so I have to start with her at least once.
That's fine, sure.
Well,
Okay, who takes yeah, go for it.
So I think it's pretty. I don't know if anyone will debate the LGDs getting out first.
Mhm.
If you will, I guess you can do that in your own section. I think LGD will get out first. They push side lanes really well. They can compensate for some of KT's early aggressive all-ins. I don't really see Origin a part in the game where Origin really beats LGD.
Mm-hmm.
Most of their lanes will just get a pretty good lead on them. Acorn, I mean, depending on where the jungle pressure goes, like Acorn versus Soaz could actually be an interesting matchup, depending. But I think that just because, again, like EDG, I don't think jungle pressure really ever goes top.
Yeah.
Or I suppose in LGD's case, you don't call it jungle pressure, you call it roam pressure.
Oh my god.
Because it's mostly PYL. Thank God.
Yeah.
So sad.
It's
True.
roam pressure doesn't really ever go top. But they're because of how good they are at pressuring waves, like they can really bully KT into making dumb decisions, even if KT get like early leads. So
Mm-hmm.
I see it being LGD then KT because they're really strong early. But I actually think the Origin versus KT matchup isn't super one-sided. Because I do think Origin do make a lot of early game mistakes, or they don't foresee a lot of stuff that happens in the early game. But I think KT has this period where they just are not sure what they're doing, and Origin have shown that they can take advantage of some of those periods in the mid game. So I can kind of see this being like 1-1, and then KT win the tiebreaker, depending on how the rest of the matches go.
Yeah.
And then Origin will be next, and then the last place team is TSM, who I don't see actually winning a single game this entire group. So
Yeah.
fun
If they
times.
somehow upset LGD, we could just say LGD's experimenting and then upset every fan base on the planet. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Kelsey,
that'll
you
be
can't say that
awesome.
about
Oh,
you
Every
can't say that
single-
about TSM not making out of groups. I'm pretty sure the members of TSM
But I
would be quite
actually
unhappy of you
really-
making that analysis. It's a reference to the
I
balls
actually
thing,
think
anyways.
that the support matchup has me really excited about this group because I think most of these supports, even Lesboy, if you go back in time, right now Lesboy's not doing so well. But if you went back to spring, Lesboy was pretty good. So the support matchups are pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
think all PYLs, Peekaboo, and Mithy are all going to be really fun to watch. So I'm excited for that in this group.
That's pretty fun. All right, Emily, this is your time to shine.
Okay. I also think it's going to be LGD and KT, but once again, and honestly, just like Group A, it's really close for that second spot. The reason why I do think KT is going to win out is honestly for a lot of similar reasons why I'm not super high on like people who say that Pain Gaming might be able to make it out of groups. I think Origin are a good team. I think they are smart. I think they showed a lot of really good like map decisions, especially in that one first game against Fnatic. However, what I think they lack is just overall experience. I'm not talking about having experienced players.
Yeah.
I'm talking about going in a game and experiencing certain things happening to you over and over and over and learning how to adapt to that. And I think even though KT has tremendous issues, like, and I know, like, because I'm a fan of KT, so something that you should realize, I guess, about me talking about KT is I absolutely love that team, but what happens when I love a team is that I'm usually very, very harsh on them.
Yeah.
And KT really frustrates me sometimes when they pick certain compositions and then do something completely unintuitive that counters exactly what that composition is supposed to do in the mid game. And they've done it multiple times. They've shown that while they can accrue these early leads, it's really difficult for them to make the correct decisions occasionally and close games out. And that's definitely their biggest weakness. If you can keep Peekaboo in lane too, that makes a huge difference because once again, Score has a lot of experience as a player, but not a lot of experience as a jungler.
Yeah.
So just in terms of how to, again, react to certain situations within the game, I think that's definitely where he's lacking. But in terms of the Origin KT matchup, I just think that KT, sheerly based on the fact that they're in a stronger region than Europe, and they additionally have played more games, I think that they'll be able to get those early leads, and I don't think Origin will know how to punish them for their mid-game mistakes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a fair
And that's
point.
honestly just based on amount of games played, a lot of stuff, just like in-game experience, basically, as a team. Like, KT has that. And the only way I see Origin taking second place is if they somehow manage to lock Peekaboo up and then somehow get a lead early on KT, which is actually something that's really difficult to do. And not many teams have been able to do that this year, so.
Yeah.
Or this split, rather, not this year.
Okay. All right. So we're getting a lot of KT over Origins. Drexen, how do you feel about this? Are you in line with this?
Yeah, I'm pretty in line with second place being close, but I think that like first place isn't even like close.
Yeah.
Like, it's
not.
It's like LG is like way better than KT. And actually, what's funny is I think that their jungle support duo kind of operate the same way between both of these teams, because I think to make up for a lot of TBQ's issues that, well, maybe not so much just PYL, but also Godway roam around a lot so that there's actually pressure being applied, similar to how Score moves around with Peekaboo. But other than that, I think outside, I mean, even top lane, I'm pretty sure that LGD is just better in every position, and I think in this group that TBQ is actually not a bad jungler at all. Like, he might actually be the best jungler in this group, which is really weird. Or like top 2 at least.
Yeah, the jungle matchup
It's like
is actually super close across the board. Like, you
Yeah.
have TBQ, amazing, Score.
yeah.
And
Like, I actually think you could make a
who's the
legitimate
last
case.
jungler?
Santorin.
And Santorin. Okay,
Santorin.
Santorin sucks.
Like, I
But
think
the
you
other
can
ones, the other ones are pretty close.
You can make a legit case for TBQ edging out, like, maybe not a lot, but slightly is the best jungler in this group, which is scary. So when LGD's like weakest asset is that, and that might be the best, like, there's no chance for other teams.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
But yeah, I think KT versus Origin will actually be an interesting match, as others have said, and I'm kind of parroting, just because I think that Soaz versus Someday could be fun if both of them show up, which I think Soaz has more consistency issues than Someday does, but for the most part, it's a meta that's really suiting for him, and it's really fun to see him back and like kind of having that carry potential. And yeah, you guys mostly covered most of it, so I'm not going to go ahead and parrot every opinion just because I agree with most of you guys. But I do think that the support matchups are actually going to be the most fun to watch.
Okay.
For sure. But yeah, LGD like way on top with like a bunch of greater than signs, and then like KT like one greater than an Origin, and then like one greater than TSM. So. And actually, as much as like everyone rips on TSM, I actually hope that their preparation for Worlds makes it so they're not like really, really horrible. Like I actually do want them to do well. So
I want them to have competitive games, and I think that
I want 2 through 4 to be a competitive like matchup. I want those 3 positions to actually compete.
If they beat LGD, I won't even be mad.
Oh, that'll be LGD next year.
There we go.
We're already settled. Like that's the one statement that will piss off every fan base on the planet. It has so much power to it. Discrediting TSM, you're tilting Summoning Insight, and like the Chinese fans will obviously think it's just absurd too. But it's great. It works.
It's beautiful. So I think I'm gonna go on a different note here because I actually think that even of course LGD will take first, but I think Origin's gonna take second, and the reason is simply that although I do think that KT is a team that is stronger, I think they're a stronger unit, and I think they have stronger players, like from Score and Peekaboo, just simply off of that alone. I think and Someday, of course. They have stronger players, and I do think they have a stronger early game, too. And they do, from what I've seen, I'm not sure if that's just the composition they love to run, is that they do have kind of like a snowbally compositions from time to time. Mostly in the top lane from Someday, or they'll have it from, I think it's actually just, I can't even remember the games. Sad face. But yeah.
It's usually Someday. Like and this is a really good meta for him too. I will say that. Like him and Soaz are both like really happy campers with the current meta. Or I mean, what we presume that's gonna still be, especially with like Juggernauts. I don't even know how that's gonna affect like I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I have no idea.
If carry tops are still a thing, both of these teams are really happy about it.
I do think team-wise, though, I think both teams have kind of like the same weaknesses that we mentioned in terms of like just kind of veering off in the mid-game. But I do want to say that I think that the mid-lane dynamic has actually changed pretty frequent, like by quite a bit in the past few patches. A couple patches ago, it was like you just pick Victor and you win. Blind picking was so easy for mid lane. It was something that you do it consistently. You do it first pick, and you would always have a safe lane, and you would have a strong, like a stupidly strong team fight. But recently, it seems like the strongest mid laner is just literally ones you counter pick. So, like for instance, right now the player like the powerhouse is like Diana, and Victor seems to not be having a good day in these carry top lane meta where you can just like, you have multiple carry threats just diving in on Victor. Beforehand it was like, okay, it felt a lot more survivable, like he would be able to put down his zoning tool. My God, I forgot the name of it already. But he'd be able to put down his zoning tool, and if he keeps his distance from like the 2 carries that were available, then he'd be fine. But now that there are more, there's a larger dive threat, he just gets destroyed really quickly. I think that's that. So I'm not saying that Victor is bad, but I think that if Diana's on the field, which I think is going to be a thing, and Xpeke does have like a really strong, he has like a weak champion pool, but I think when it comes in terms of like counter picking, I think his counter picking pool is strong. So on that alone, I think they'll edge it out. It's kind of like 50-50, and I'm kind of biased in the sense that maybe I do want a little bit of OG winning. So that's probably a little bit of a sad thing right there, but I think that's going to play a little bit of factor. But in the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if Ku wins it. I mean, if KT wins it, KT wins it, and I think it will be kind of an upset if Origin wins. But that's just how best of ones will work. So, all right. Does anyone agree with that? I don't know. Obviously not, because I literally just like said a counterpoint to all everyone else saying KT won.
I mean,
So.
I think that's
TLDR. Origin wins because Diana, even though they shouldn't win.
Yep. Yep.
I think I'm kind of confused at that only because I think that I don't know. Are you just saying that like Xpeke is better than Nagane?
I am not impressed with Nagane.
Okay.
I am not impressed with him. I think Xpeke is a stronger player.
I've been unimpressed with both of them. Actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good
throughout
point.
both of their playoff run, but I think Nagane is better in terms of team fighting and specifically like cooldown and ult usage in team fighting, which is actually something that Peke like. And I'm probably slightly biased against him because of his Azir play during the oh my gosh, their Fnatic set like a part. But and I'm not talking about like, oh man, Peg is terrible Azir. No, what I'm saying is if you play Azir, you want to focus on his zoning potential in team fights for either setting up specific skirmishes in your favor or turning around a 5v5 team fight, using it for counter engage, using it for engage, whatever. And I thought Xpeke actually did a really poor job of that. And it's indicative of how he has been in team fights, where I honestly can't say the same thing about Nagane. And I don't think Nagane is like the best mid laner either. Like he's whatever, he's serviceable, right? But the thing he does bring to KT is that he's actually a fairly good initiator. When he did well in spring, it was on like Lysandra. Even when KT was like absolutely terrible, just because he could initiate and zone. And I think that's actually what he's good at, and that's why I'd slightly put him ahead of Xpeke. So I thought that was interesting that you picked that matchup. That's all. So like, I disagree, but that's my reasoning behind it.
And that's where I agree with you in the sense that I don't think that Xpeke has been playing well in terms of like having these mage kind of control mage picks, like the Victors, the Azirs. He has never really been that. I don't think he has been that good as a player when it comes to these picks. I feel like he's always been kind of like an assassin player, and if he doesn't get those assassins, then he just kind of blends in with the rest of the crowd essentially. And I think that this meta, it's going to be hard to really point out if it's going to completely head in this direction, because you see the LeBlancs, you see the Zeds, the Zed buff specifically, and you see. He still plays Fizz, even though I think the nerf that came down to his physical attack is actually just like an all-around nerf to like everything about that champion. So he's probably not going to see much play on that sense. But I do think that if he gets his picks, if he gets the counter picks, I think he will be able to take the matchup fairly easily. But I don't know. Like there are two sides of the maps like surrounding him too. So like I doubt that if they get the lane swaps that he'll be allowed to do anything with scoring Peekaboo. So sadness. Yeah. Okay, I think we just covered every point of that actually. Is there anything else that we should mention? I think that was pretty.
We're going to talk about.
We're
going to talk about IG and EGD briefly because next episode's going to be about LGD.
Oh right. Let's talk about IG and EGD.
So,
okay.
All right. We can just do like what we did last time, which was if you're a Western team, how would you beat these teams?
Okay. So let's start with.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. So let's go with IG. If you're a Western team, let's say Fnatic. Who else is? I'm gonna have to quickly check who else is in that group set. Cloud9. There we go. An AH game. So if you're a team going in that group, what is your plan to dismantle Invictus Gaming? Let's go with Emily.
If you are Fnatic, I think you want to somehow make sure that Cacao is on a farming jungler, so you don't see him for the first part. So not that it's really difficult to remove Cacao from the game, and I still think that you are going to have to admit that Cacao is a better jungler than Reignover. But in terms of keeping him out of the game long enough, I think what you'd want to do is make sure that in the draft you try to take away more aggressive early game junglers, so he can't provide as much early pressure for IG, which kind of takes a little bit of pressure off of you because your early game isn't fantastic anyway. And then you're going to have Huni deal with Zatai in the top lane. And I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of crap for this because a lot of people don't like Zatai and absolutely love Huni. But I actually think Zatai wins that, especially the way he's been playing recently.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to say, hey, Huni, we're going to need you to at least hold off Zatai because where we're going to focus is bot lane. And we're going to try to snowball that advantage as hard as possible to make sure that like mid and bot lane, you want to keep Kid and Kitties completely out of it. And then you also want to try to make sure that Rookie doesn't get a lot of farm either, which would require, and even though I haven't particularly loved Reignover's Elise, it'll require him to play a jungler that can provide a lot of early pressure. Like, would Olaf even work in this situation? Maybe. I don't know. But basically you have to have Reignover attacking the lanes from the get-go, remove Cacao from helping out his lanes, and then try to keep Rookie from getting farm and try to accrue such an advantage in the bot lane that when you guys group up in teamfight, you won't, Zatai's advantage won't mean as much.
Okay. Kelsey, how would you attack him?
So, I agree on the Zatai point, Zatai being really kind of a scary threat with how he's playing right now, but I don't think he'll carry a game by himself. That's my thing with Zatai, is that I think that he's really good at, the 1-4, and he'll do all this crazy shit, but really just pressure Rookie. Honestly, that's still, for me, the thing, because I think bottom lane is self-sufficient enough on Fnatic that you can get away with Fnatic pressuring bottom lane by themselves, and then just try to gank mid as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then top, almost just ignore Zatai. Try to split even and try to be fine, and I think Huni can probably do that okay. And then when it comes to the 1-4, I think both of these teams are actually really good at 1-4, and so that'll be a really interesting development to see come mid to late game. But as long as you focus as much effort as possible on shutting down Rookie, I don't think Zatai can carry on his own. So that would be my advice there. I also, of course, agree with trying to get Cacao on a more farm-oriented jungle pick. Except Gragas, because...
Yeah, you don't want Cacao on Gragas, because he just will... It doesn't matter, he'll just turn all the team fights.
Yeah. Okay. Drexen, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I more or less agree. I also think it's a good idea to force yourself into a 2v2 situation against Kid and Kitties and kind of abuse Kitties' weak laning. And on top of that, I think that even more so than versus other things, I think proper warding is really, really important. And I think even if you have to play somewhat conservatively, as long as everything you do is smart and not overzealous and just guessing, then that's fine. I think that's the way to beat IG, because if you can neutralize Cacao from getting ahead early, that takes away a lot of the threat of IG. And if you're playing a safer mid laner that just won't die to Rookie, that's also a thing as well. And not to mention, the wards won't only stop the snowball from Cacao, but proper warding will also make it so it's a lot easier to spot Zatai if he does go for the 1-4 split, and it'll stop him from solo taking the towers all on his own. So
Alright. That's actually pretty, yeah, okay. I agree with all of that, which makes it sad because you guys have all pretty much all covered it. There's nothing really I can put out.
Wait, how
do you think they should focus bottom or mid, Raz?
I think they should focus.
You can talk about how Cloud9 beats them.
They should
I was just doing it generally.
I just think that they should focus
How does Cloud9 beat them?
I think they focus
Which
mid.
they don't.
Essentially. A C9 won't do anything. But
Blood
Here's-
sacrifice.
unless if, like, for
Here's
whatever
an
reason.
interesting thing.
Go on.
Here's an interesting thing I noticed while playing with my gold distributions, because I do that in my quiet little corner, putting in numbers and things and whatever.
Yeah.
So of course, obviously, Clear Love is the jungler with the highest percentage of team gold earned, right, over the course of the split.
Yeah.
But I was looking, and I expected the next one to be Cacao, because obviously, like China, you have the carry junglers, whatever.
Yeah.
It's high.
But
It's high. He has the second most.
Oh my god, please help.
And it makes sense. He plays like so the Shyvana and everything
Shyvana,
else.
And the
He's
Kha'Zix,
literally
yeah.
just like
Makes sense.
farming all the
He just
time.
plays because, Kha'Zix and Shyvana.
Yeah, so
And a
it's
Moo
like
Moo.
actually really funny to think of that.
funnel
So,
all that
for
gold
me,
into
that-
high, you can-
That speaks a lot of to Cloud9's problems, though, because it's like if you're putting all of your gold into high,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Why
I mean,
are
it's
you
not
doing
something they
that?
haven't done before, unless that's what you're.
But
Yeah.
it's like, it's a difference. You see the difference in how the gold really comes through, because, for instance, that Clear Love is getting that gold from just, like, the pressure that he puts on the map. He'll take the kills in the ganks that he goes for. But High is literally not even going for that pressure. He just farms. And so that's like,
I don't think that's gonna work against any really good team.
Yeah.
It won't.
If you let him get the gold, it doesn't
Yeah.
really fucking matter if you play proper late game. And if you do let him get the gold, then I mean that should have been something that should be stopped anyway because he's not putting pressure anywhere. So
Yeah. So Cloud9 is fucked. I think everybody agrees with that. And just to hammer in certain points, because I know there was a bit of drama last night, I'm just going to hammer this in because it's like my bit of a rant of why Cloud9 is fucked. Is they have good lanes from the bottom lane. Like Sneaky and Lamination are great. Great. They can stand on their own. Stop fucking playing Karma, but they can stand on their own. Incarnation is a great mid laner. He needs more pressure in the lane, but you know what? He's a great mid laner. That's fine. High, literally. Sorry, I know that High has a really good history with jungling in NA, like a wide history from Orbit and all that, Quantic. But you know what? That's the past. That's the past. Different meta. You're coming in. You're playing like farm junglers with no pressure on the map. That's not like literally cannot stand. That he is not a good jungler. That is a fact. And then to hammer in a point that happened last night, balls. People are gonna say he's in a slump. But how long do you have to play poorly to be in a slump? I think that's a real question here. How long do you have to consistently be playing poorly to be slumping? Like, do we have a time frame? Is there an official time frame for that?
But like, look at the top laners in this group. Like, I'm not as high as Huni on. I'm not as high on Huni as other people are.
Yeah.
But he's gonna beat balls. The tie is. It's not gonna be pretty. People like, and Ziv is also. No, it's not looking good for balls in this group.
Yep.
To be quite honest.
Yep. Balls will not stand on the same fucking platform as these top laners. 100%. Anyone who can say differently is a Cloud9 fanboy. I don't, or like me, don't know who Ziv
Or
is.
Sneaky/Incarnation.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah, that.
And it's like if that team
Ziv is
succeeds,
probably hands down.
hands down what?
Ziv is like hands down best top in Taiwan.
Okay.
Really good.
Yeah.
All right, good information for balls to know when he gets fucked. So,
No, like that's the thing. Like people don't understand. Like in my opinion, watching these three top laners that aren't balls, like Huni is the worst of the three. And I'm not saying he's
Wait,
bad.
sorry.
I'm just saying comparatively, Huni is the worst of these three top laners.
yeah, yeah,
Which gives you a good idea of like how strong Group B's top lane like it's not gonna be a good time for
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
at all.
So if anyone's gonna be like, the only way Cloud9 gets through this group is off the back of whatever snowballing composition they throw around. Sneaky getting Draven, and if he
I
gets a
don't
kill,
know.
then
Huni
fine.
might be better than Ziv. I don't know. I think Ziv is good and well rounded, but it's hard.
It's
okay.
hard.
We'll
Okay,
move on.
that's gonna be the real focus here. How hard does balls get fucked, and how good is Ziv and Huni in comparison to everyone else? So that's gonna be a nice end to that group. So
Maybe we'll just give him like the sympathy rumble every game.
sympathy, just don't die.
I feel like that's even worse. Like you give him rumble.
Oh, what can you even do at that point though?
Uh,
Alright, and then of course the last team on the table here is LGD. Okay.
EDG.
EDG. Yeah. Then
LGD episode.
oh yeah, EDG. Okay, of course we have to save the best for last. Okay. EDG. How do you stop this monster if you are the team named H2K? Oh Jesus. Okay, if you are H2K,
Why are
Is
you
Betten-
laughing?
is Betanjok
Oh, man.
a good answer? No, okay, no. But okay, if you're SKT, how do you deal with EDG? What is the answer to this team?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you're H2K, like if you are the one Western team in Group C, which is H2K, like it's fine. Like Ryu and Pawn, whatever, they
Yeah.
can duke it out in the mid lane. But the jungle discrepancy here
It's so unfortunate.
is, oh my gosh!
Mm.
Like I don't even know how to describe the massive difference in how this jungle matchup works, because basically H2K is the poor man's LGD, where the rest of their team is trying to make up for the fact that their jungler applies absolutely no pressure and also makes really weird decisions. So, I mean, I don't see what's stopping Clearlove from just absolutely destroying him.
Oh, it's not even gonna stop like anyone else on that team. Like,
Yeah, just that matchup alone. Okay,
Mako is just gonna
how
walk
does
in there.
H2K win?
It's like, yeah.
My favorite thing is about watching like EDG games when we talk about jungle matchups is that like Clearlove gets a lot of kills, right? And he usually gets them from lane, or sometimes he'll get it from solo killing the jungle. But he doesn't really invade that much. Like usually when he gets solo kills, it's either because he's like invading a little bit to clear vision, and the
Yeah.
enemy jungle tries to attack him and push him out, or it's because he's getting invaded on, and he just like turns around and heads up, sevens up. It's like, why are you messing with that? Like,
Yeah.
you know how this is gonna turn out.
Yeah.
Well, like if we remember,
But yeah, so it's just for me. So if you're talking about like, Lulex is the kind of player who seems like he thinks that he's like can get away with some of this stuff, so he makes a lot of the daring moves. So I can almost see in this H2K matchup of, like where Lulex says, you know what, Clearlove is hot shit, I'm just gonna shut him down right away, and he goes in and then like they collapse and just kill him. Like I can see something like that happening.
It can happen. I agree with that. He thinks it's a time to
so
make a name for
interesting.
himself, and he just gets like.
I think the people.
Well, that's like the kind of player that Lulex seems to be.
Yeah.
Uh,
Emily?
People who were watching the Snake EDG series
Oh.
and saying how, oh my gosh, how can this happen?
Yeah.
The EDG is so far ahead. Yeah, you haven't seen nothing until you see EDG H2K or EDG Bangkok Titans.
I'm so
It's
looking
gonna
forward
be-
to that match, dude.
That's gonna be so.
That's gonna be the most
Like, I
hilarious.
honestly have
14-minute
no
inhib?
idea.
We should take bets on how fast they take the first inhibitor when it starts.
Oh, we should actually.
EDG BKT, oh god.
EDG BKT is going to be even worse because Bangkok Titans just like to fight all the time. Like they don't choose when to fight. Like they
Yeah.
don't choose advantageous terrain. They don't choose objectives to fight over. And
You don't know how
It's
sad that
gonna be
makes me.
it's going to be like, oh man, like remember when Korn decided it was a really good idea?
Just solo invade level.
Yeah, like
No.
that's how I
Why?
see this game going.
He was playing Echo that game, right?
Yeah, he was.
Kind of reminds me. Yeah, G4 will just like actually he'll play Echo. He'll just counterpick every
Yeah.
time, and then he'll play extremely aggressively in the lane with that counterpick. He's gonna get destroyed. I'm sorry, that's just not gonna be a thing he can do. Oh,
With then, it's like Pawn will just pick whatever he wants.
yeah.
To and just dumpster him with it.
I'm just ready for his like spring split troll picks. He's like, I'm gonna play Lux this game. Veigar, here we go. Okay.
Hey, Lux got buffed, so you know maybe.
Okay, so now that we've talked about how H2K Now that we've talked about how H2K and BKT are going to get demolished,
So
right?
how does
Let's talk about how H2K can feasibly beat EDG.
Alright, yeah. Okay.
Is that even possible?
I think what you'd have to do is
I'm
I don't
actually
think it's
so
possible,
confused.
But
Okay,
like,
yeah.
okay, if we think about, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna think about how Unlimited Potential beat EDG.
Oh my
Even
god.
though, obviously, well, no, they beat them with their full
Dude,
roster.
Unlimited
Yeah.
Potential could go into Group A
Yeah,
and come
they're
out top
the
2.
only
I know.
team
But I'm saying,
pre-playoffs. They're the
My
only
point.
team in the regular season to have beaten EDG's main
yeah,
lineup.
my point
so.
is that they studied EDG and they came up with this game plan, and I
Yeah.
think game plan is solid. Whether H2K can actually execute it is not something I have confidence that they can do. But in terms of like targeting Clear Love through global pressure, so like putting Ryu on like a TF and then somehow having like Kasing is gonna have to get really deep vision down in order to keep track of Clear Love. That's like the only conceivable way. Like you
Yeah.
use that
Oh,
UP blueprint.
See, this is good. This is good.
See,
That's
This
the
is
only
that's the
good
thing,
because
though.
the H2K's strongest players are their top, their mid, and their support. So they can replicate the same type of strategy, and they can add in like the TP. Because I actually think Odo's strength as a top laner in the region. He's really good at like TP re-engages and TP flanks. So
put
yeah,
like
they
Oyo
could
punch
try to
and put
conduct-
like
They just have to
UP.
be a dynamic team, and that's like the hard thing to really ask for this team, because they do have exactly what they need to do well. Like, they have Kasing, they have Odwamne, they don't even need Lulix, and they have Ryu. Like, they have literally like great players in every lane, and in the support of players to really do something in the early game. But the reason why UP did so well was because and the reason why LGD has always done so well against EDG is that they were always able to be dynamic in the early game and commit to the skirmishes that they went for. And so you saw the supports roaming cross map at perfect times. Either they roam mid or they roam top, or they're always in a position in which they say fuck the lanes, essentially, is what they're saying, is that they can always act on the spot, saying, okay, we can leave you, Yarnan, to this lane here, and I'm going to go to this top lane because of the wave is pushing in, like, they're able to act while the game is going on. The idea of a laning phase is dynamic to, like, EDG, LGD, UP, but why I think H2K will get fucked is because I think that for them, laning phase is very linear. It's a linear process for them. And if the farthest they can go with that is like lane swap. Hey, a lane swap, and then they take their support and they go mid lane or something. They take they take 3 people if they're lane swapping and they try and gank mid lane. And I feel like that's the biggest thing with like H2K or I feel like Europe as a region. It's just that they kind of they feel
laning phase is extremely linear.
yeah, it's
They
very
feel
linear.
very attached to laning
yeah,
phases.
and so like I remember the
that's
entire
how-
yeah. Go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like that's why the matchup is so important for people who are reevaluating like the context of Kaboom Alliance, because that's actually what happened. Is the overvaluing of the laning phase. That's what Kaboom was able to take advantage of.
And I think like the greatest question that has been asked and honestly answered was when people are like, well, why does China play Kassadin, or why does China have this composition that's like so 80 focused? Like they'll have a complete 80 composition. It's like, oh man, you just build armor, and then people just forget that they don't give you the time to build armor. Giving people the time to, like, let's say if they play Kassadin and to push in their tower, they don't give you time. They don't say, here's a free period in this game called a laning phase where nothing happens and you can just go 1v1 or like the entire like remember, I think the greatest one is like when people like Forgiven or something say, yo, they just bring their jungler here. Yeah, bring your jungler here 24/7, blah blah blah, that they complain about it. Like that's something that's not supposed to be expected. Like I don't know. That's my little rant on like the West when it comes to laning phase and how they take it, like as if that's supposed to be something that's like a little treaty, the laning phase treaty, I'll call it. Like anyways, so like I think
the opposite is in like lane swap scenarios, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I don't like about Western lane swap scenarios, where they just like take your tower as soon as possible. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually looking at the statistics, and in LPL, the first tower falls later on average in lane swap scenarios because they're holding up that lane to get like the 80 carry farm, and they're taking more opportunities to roam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key part, where they have their support and their mid laner and their top laner like all roaming, and they're like, yay, lane phase equals all roam,
leaving your 80 to
let's
farm
go, let's have a party,
taking over the map.
Yeah. So
and also that's also why their late games are so devastating, because then they'll also come out with like an 80 carry with 2 extra items or something on someone else, and then it's like, oh, this is an 80 carry meta, you say? Too bad I don't believe that.
Too bad.
I don't know.
Just wait until Death's Mordekaiser comes
like
out.
This is true.
And so like that's gonna be like people talk about, oh man, you know, going into World, the meta will just be linear. Every team will just be trying to understand the same meta. Like there are stupid comments out there of like Western pros coming out and saying, man, it's just about who understands the meta coming in there. Like it's as if it's the same fucking thing for everybody. No, everybody understands it differently. Everybody understands laning phase differently. Like Western teams will understand laning phase as something that's like, you know what, that's just, I'm gonna get punished if I pick this matchup, so I'm not gonna pick this matchup. And it's like, well, that's your limitation. That's a little rant I had there. I don't know.
One thing I do think will be interesting is this World's
salty Western analyst.
I know. Because so many teams are going to be trying to figure out like the patch. You could have like a whole bunch of different interpretations of the meta, which can like it could be really interesting to see how they match up. And additionally, I also think that when you go into a worlds or like international competition like this, one of the more interesting aspects is that teams tend to fall back on like what's comfortable to them, but what's comfortable to them is going to be different than what's comfortable to like another region, which I guess kind of ties back into your point in terms of either overvaluing the laning phase or just not having one completely, which is why, I don't know, we need more international competitions, I guess is my more point.
See, the greatest thing about international competition, or at least the thing I love, is just brackets. I just love brackets. And then, like, thinking of the possible clashes, but they never happen anymore. And the only time it happens is legitimately the end of the season, where it just kind of doesn't matter, because you just don't see them doing anything for the next 4 months or something. It's just, oh well. So, I think that's all the topics that we've covered. Okay. Is that it? Do we just go into shoutouts here? Yeah, I guess.
Ideally.
Yeah, let's go into let's do it. Well,
If we have to.
If we have. Alright. This is not episode all the time. It's not even, I don't even know where I was going with that. Alright, Drexen, lead us off. It's your shoutouts here.
Alright. So give a usual shout out to Esports Heaven and the panelists, and I also want to give a special shout out to at Heckmeister, because the guy is not a native English speaker, and he's doing like 1,000-word previews every day, and he does it at work on his cell phone. And
He's actually, by the way, he's the most hilarious guy. I love him.
Why would you do that?
Yeah,
I don't know. That's like his only free time. So he texts it out on the cell phone, but he doesn't just do that. He like formats the images and like text and shit. Like I usually have to fix it afterwards, and I obviously have to proof it and stuff. But like the shit, like I can't believe the guy actually fucking writes these huge previews. They're actually pretty good on his fucking phone. Like he texts it out.
Jesus Christ! I love this guy, man.
Shout out
read
to
his
that
LGD
guy.
preview, and I was like giving him criticism, and I was just like, damn, now that I think that he's doing it on his cell phone.
Yeah, he just does it
Kelsey,
all
you
over.
dick.
I gave him good feedback.
Alright. Okay. Alright, with that note, Kelsey, shoutouts.
Shoutouts to the Score Esports. Speaking of previews and doing all of the European and Chinese ones. Shoutouts to at Fiona on Fire, who's doing all of the North American and Korean ones. And we also have Nicholas Doucet, who's been doing more and more feature-related writing for us, and he will be doing all the wildcard previews. So
that's nice.
You should check those
Glad
out.
that guy's doing
all the wildcard and LMS. So yeah. Mike remembers, Nick.
Yes.
Good guy. Yeah, he'll be doing the LMS and the wildcard previews. So that's pretty exciting. And yeah. Just generally, shout out to everyone here and the stuff that they'll be doing. Also, shout out to Frosk, who is doing some video content during the off-season, and we might have her on the show.
The hype!
I guess.
Can we get Frost and Hugo again?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Dude, we need this. We need it.
Oh, yeah. I'll take a backstage, like, that episode, like, 2 of us volunteer to go off and just, like, let them go at it while the other 2 referee. Like, this is ideal.
We can have, like, 6...
The OG show, what are you talking
We can have 6 slots. Just, like, 6 slots
That's
going
horrible.
on.
Dude, 4 is already a stretch, to be honest. Because, like, you always have the 2 people describing everything, and then that one leftover person that's always like, yeah, what they said for the last, like, 15 minutes.
You can just have, like, the most messiest debate show. I like that idea.
Speaking of too many slots, we're also going to have the LGD Gaming, the new Orin, Rayra, come on next week to talk about LGD, and we'll have a big LGD episode that's hopefully from more of the, less of the super hardcore analytical side and more of the get to know the team side. So,
Yay! Alright, and stay put, so, like, maybe a day afterwards when the drama hits, so... about the show afterwards.
Oh, God.
Alright, okay. Emily?
Anyway.
Emily?
Yeah, shout out to LOL Esports, Liquid Legends, and Follow Esports, which are 3 places I've been writing. Follow Esports is going to be a lot more feature-related stuff. If you want to see me lay my bleeding heart on the table, my love for KT, I wrote about the 2013 Bullets and how a bunch of their members are coming back.
It's really good, actually. I really like that one.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because, like, I love KT, so it's my chance to kind of, I guess, profile a team that means a lot to me personally. And also, like, my writing and even just getting involved in esports wouldn't have happened if I hadn't happened to see that team. So,
Nice.
and then also LOL Esports, I'm doing Group A preview, and a bunch of other stuff for them. So look forward to that. And also I'll be doing a bunch of previews for Liquid Legends. So I'm going to be doing a ton of content. I already did LGD, Coup Taggers, and Pain Gaming. And I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff, obviously, for Pain on Liquid Legends, because that's a team that I think a lot of people don't know a lot about. And I don't know, who knows, I might do a video on them too, just regarding their chances and how they're not at all like Kaboom. And then shout out lastly to Brant Steel Hunger Games Simulator, which I used to
I love that.
input all of the members of Group. I've only done Group A so far, but it was actually really fun. People liked it, so I'm probably gonna end up doing the other groups too.
Yeah.
That thing is hilarious.
That is pretty funny.
I think everyone was pretty entertained by it. So shout out to that too. Whoever designed that.
Greatest idea possible.
Yeah, I've never even seen or read the Hunger Games.
Alright, there's the real... Oh my god. I read the first one, and then I have the second one. I wanted to read it, but then I never got around to doing it.
And you
so.
call yourself a writer.
Oh my god. Emily. Tisk
I
tisk.
quit.
But yeah, for my shout out to Team Dignitas, shout out to... Honestly, the panelists and the new articles that they're coming out with. Read them, god damn it. It's good stuff. I will be having some more video content possibly in the future. I like the idea behind it, and I want to make it short and concise. So while you see people like Thorin and quite honestly like and Richard Lewis coming out with these 15-minute videos, I want to stop that, because usually if I let it drag on that long, it's just going to be me ranting or rambling, and I want to be able to have concise videos so I can practice on being more concise with my points. See, it's a little me time. So so I think that's
I liked your video, Raz. I really liked it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
The one you put out the other day.
Okay, thanks a lot. Alright, so that's closing out the show. Everybody wave off to the fans. Perfect.